Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the two Ewes of Two Ewes Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at twoewesfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our Two Ewes Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Marsha, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good, me too.
It's sunny today.
Is it? It rained this morning here, but now it's sunny.
We had one day last week that was absolutely gorgeous. It was hit about 60, I think.
Uh-huh.
Sun, I sat out on the back patio and started spinning, which I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then we went back to rain, and now it's sunny, but it's really, it's cold and windy. But
oh, yeah.
At least the sun is out, so that was nice.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We have wind today, too. Not horrible wind, but we do have wind today. I didn't put my hair in a clip or anything, so when I walked home from work, it was like...
That must be a sight.
Flying all over the place, yeah. I don't know what people with long hair do in the wind. What do you do if you have long hair and you're in the wind? I don't know.
Hair clips. I
guess, yeah. Yeah, so...
Or a hat.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea, too. Just plunk a hat on my head. Or just get a haircut.
A hand knit hat. That's what they have to wear. Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
Anyway. So, what are you working on? What's the news?
Well, today's project that I'm working on while I talk to you, because it's nice stockinette, is my new cast on.
Oh.
So I guess that gets us right into projects, huh?
Yeah. Yes, it does. On schedule.
Let's forget about all that 15 minutes of talk about nothing before we get to knitting. Okay. Let's jump right in.
I'm looking at the counter on my computer, and 2 minutes and 5 seconds.
It's a record. Okay. So I am working on a sweater, a pullover, which I don't normally knit. It's more like a T-shirt.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm thinking of it more like a T-shirt. And it's out of the silk, it's dance rustic silk that I bought from Dragonfly Fibers last year at Stitches. So this is a 2016 Stitches purchase. So I feel pretty good about that. I knitted up one of my 2016 Stitches purchases in my Ohm shawl, and now I'm starting on another 2016 Stitches purchase. Can you hear that? I have the window open, and the chickens are squawking outside in the backyard.
I cannot hear the chickens, but I heard a dog bark, which I'm assuming is Nash.
That was Nash. I think he was barking because he can hear the chickens. They're unhappy because I have to work tonight. I teach tonight, and so they're not out because...
Oh, you couldn't get them back in.
It'll be hard to get them back in before I have to go back to school. So, anyway, they are not happy. They're in the chicken tractor today. So, but yeah, it's nice enough to have a little bit of a window open this afternoon. So, okay, so back to my project. Dance Rustic Silk from Dragonfly Fibers, and it is, I don't remember the name of the colorway, but it's a gray, several shades of kind of brownish gray, and then there are spots of it that look like the yarn rusted.
Okay.
So, or touched rust. So it's really knitting up pretty. This sweater is mostly stockinette. The pattern is called Havana, and it is by Heidi Marie Kaiser, and it's right above the elbow length sleeve. I might do it a little bit longer than that. And the pattern also has it as striped, but I'm doing it in this kind of tonal brown gray color. And it has a really interesting boat boat shaped. What is that called? A boat neck.
Boat neck.
It has a really interesting boat neck neckline that has. It actually has beads in the pattern, and I'm not doing beads either. I'm doing. I'm past the neckline, but I did yarn overs. So instead of placing beads, I just did yarn over, knit two togethers. So, and that was somebody's suggestion in the project pages. It's a free pattern, and I'm really enjoying it. It's lots of stockinette. I'm doing it on size 3 needles, so it's small. The needles I'm using are small, but I really like the way it's coming out. Turning out.
Yeah, it's
really
a cute pattern.
pretty.
I'm looking at it right now on Ravelry. It's a very cute pattern.
Yeah, fingering weight, t-shirt pattern, small needles. It actually calls for size 2.5 needles, but I liked the fabric that I got with the size 3 needles. And the yarn that it calls for is silk or a silk blend, which is good because a lot of times I'm taking a pattern that's designed for wool and then using a silk or a linen or a silk blend, linen blend, cotton blend instead of the wool. And this one is actually designed for a yarn that is, it doesn't have a suggested yarn in the pattern, but it does say that a silk and a silk blend will be good. So I'm using a silk yarn, a pure silk yarn.
Okay.
So
nice.
yeah, it's going to be.
So do you think with the silk that it's going to be warm, or do you think it's going to, is silk one of those fibers that sort of adjusts, it's warm, or if you need it warm, cool if you need it cool?
I think silk is a fiber like that.
Okay.
My sweater, of course, that is lace, all over lace pattern. The other sweater, the 1958 cardigan that I have, that I made out of the Tess yarn silk, is kind of like that, but it's also an all over lace pattern. So that may be just because it has a lot of holes in it. So we'll have to see, because this is just a solid stockinette pullover. So I'll be happy if it's not too warm, more like a t-shirt. That's what I'm hoping for. So we'll see. Well, remember that Savannah yarn? That was a silk blend, and I don't find that shirt to be really warm.
No, I don't either. It's very comfortable in warm weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what my needles are clicking on right now. What about you? Are you knitting right now?
I'm knitting right now. So I'll tell you. No. Before I go on, is that all your projects?
Oh, no. I
Okay.
have other stuff to talk about. You want me to keep going?
Oh, yeah, keep going. Tell me the rest, and then
okay,
and then I'll get to mine.
Okay. Well, I finished some things. I finished the knocker shawl. And actually, I think I may have inserted a little note about that in the last podcast, because I do believe I had it off the needles before I was finished editing. So the knocker shawl is done, is finished, except it hasn't been blocked or had its ends woven in, which, according to Robert, then that means it's not done. Every time I say I'm finished, but he's like, yes, I'm finished writing my English paper, but I haven't typed it or put in the bibliography.
You thought about it.
Right. So it's sitting in a crumpled heap right now. It needs to be blocked. I actually think I might have woven in the ends already, but I love it. I'm really happy with the way that turned out with the Knockers yarn. It's the Boo Knits New Beginnings shawl. And I have to say, I love the Boo Knits patterns. I have the Sweet Dreams collection, and I've made a couple of those shawls multiple times. And so the patterns that I've made of Boo Knits, I really like. This is one that's nice. And then the Sweet Dreams, wait a minute. Sweet Dreams is the name of the pattern, and then there's a collection that it's in. So I've made the Sweet Dreams pattern a couple of times too. Anyway, I really like the pattern, and I think it turned out really nicely. And it came out big, which I like. It's not going to be a tiny little thing. So that's good. So I'm happy with that, and I'll have it ready so I can wear it to Knockers. And then I actually finished 2 projects that I hadn't even started last time we recorded.
Oh, really?
Isn't that cool?
Wow.
I love those kind of projects.
So not a pot holder.
Not a pot holder.
It's not a pot holder or a dishcloth.
No, it's 2 baby sweaters.
Oh,
2,
wow.
count them, 2.
2.
There's a woman at work who's having twins, and she found out just recently that they're both girls. And so she came into one of our meetings, and she was all excited. And so I thought, okay, I need to make her something. But then there's also 2 other women who are in the same meeting who are also pregnant. So I had bought, again, a Stitches West purchase. I must be on a roll. This was not on purpose, but I had bought 2 years ago at Stitches West a bag of yarn from Webs. And the yarn is Plymouth Colorado. A very interesting yarn. It's cotton acrylic, and it's probably 20 plies, I think.
Oh.
Tiny plies. They're like thread. I kind of can imagine that a mill had all of this leftover variegated thread. And so they took, 20 balls of the same variegated, or 10 balls of the same variegated thread, and 10 or cones, and 10 cones of this other variegated thread, and then they plied them together. So it's not that all 20 plies are different. It's half and half, like a 2-ply yarn would be half one color and half another. But the colors change. So it's like 2 variegated yarns plied together.
Okay.
Very colorful. Blue, red, purple, pink, orange, green. I mean, just lots of colors, but it tends toward the purple, reddish purple as the dominant color. But because it's all these little threads, 20 little threads, it almost looks kind of twisted instead of plied. That sounds weird, twisted instead of plied, because they're really the same thing. But it's a very interesting look to this yarn, because it's not really 2 plies that don't nestle together. It's like one whole rope of yarn, one whole strand of. It's almost like a singles. Does that make sense? In that it doesn't have the bumps of plies, because the plies are so small and smooth.
Right.
But half of the singles is one color changing, and the other half of the singles is another color changing thing. If that makes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does make sense, Kelly, believe it or not.
Okay, so the pattern that I used with this very interesting yarn, it is a little bit splitty. I'm not sure, it might be discontinued, because that's often what they do with Webs. Those bags of yarn are often discontinued yarns. But I really liked it. But I have to be a little bit careful that I don't split like just one thread out of the 20.
Right, because
then you have this little tiny loop of a thread hanging off, looks like a snag. So, but the pattern that I used is the In Threes pattern. It's a baby cardigan by Kelly Herdrick.
So are you gonna put that in your projects?
Yeah, it's not in my projects right now, but I will put it in before the episode goes up. And I really like the pattern. The pattern is easy. It's cute. Since these babies are going to be twins, they'll probably be small. And I made the smallest size, like the 0 to 3 month size. But I think my yarn was a little bit bigger than the yarn called for in the pattern. So I think I got a size that's more like 6 to 12 months. And so for these babies, it might be like, I don't know how twins grow.
I don't know either.
I assume they catch up. Right there. They're not small for their whole life. So I'm not sure how fast they catch up to other baby size, but I'm sure that these 2 sweaters will be too big for the newborn babies, but they should be perfect at some point. That's the good thing about babies.
Yeah, that's the thing about baby sweaters. At some point, they can wear them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So unless they just come out too big, the baby. The baby's
Right,
not the sweater. And I don't think that these twins will come out too big. So I have 10 balls of this yarn, and I've used 6. So I have enough yarn to make at least one more of these sweaters, which I might do depending on if I can find out whether the other women are having girls or not.
Because it's a yarn that's more for a girl than a boy.
It's very... Well, and the sweater is too. To me, it looks like a little dress. The sweater looks like a little dress. It's kind of A-line and short sleeves, and it has just three buttons. So, yeah. And the color is more pinky purple, more along those lines.
Okay.
So if they're having boys, I'm going to do something. I'll do something different because I have some other ideas. And then I have socks in my jar that can go to somebody. One of them can get socks.
I wish I knew somebody that was having a baby, because I don't ever get to knit baby stuff. I mean, I could knit baby stuff and donate it, but it's kind of fun to knit something for somebody that you know that's having a baby. But
it is
I don't know anybody that's having a baby. So.
All of a sudden at work, everybody's having babies.
Little baby boom going on.
We do.
Nice.
We have, we have a baby boom. So yeah, that was started and finished.
Very nice.
Unless, I guess you could say it's not finished if I'm going to make more of that same sweater. But the 2 sweaters are for the one person, for the one mom, are finished. So, but I think I might just finish up this yarn with making these N3s sweaters. It's a really cute sweater, and it's really fast. I did each one in a weekend. And that was not a weekend of nothing but knitting. That was a weekend where I gardened and I cooked. I did I did other stuff.
Okay.
So,
well, nice.
Yeah.
And what else are you doing?
The only other thing that I can report on is that I spun the entire loop bump. 5.5 ounces of, it was merino, and it's purple and turquoise and purple, gray, turquoise, and white.
Okay.
So
have you just spun it's now just a single right
yeah,
now?
so I'm finished except...
Yes, well, because I will talk about my loop bump too, because I started spinning that. But I'm kind of curious: are you going to do a Navajo ply, or are you going to ply it with something else?
I'm not sure yet. Yeah,
okay.
And that's why I kind of don't think of knitting or spinning projects in the same way, because it feels like I'm done. I want to feel like I'm done, even though it's not like in a skein yet. I'm done spinning it, and now I just have to decide what the next step is. So it's kind of like the separate steps are projects in themselves. I don't know. I don't like having spinning projects because it seems like they're never finished.
Well, I mean, it's not considered finished just putting it in a skein. Plying either a single or plying it, putting it in a skein, putting it in a box. That's not considered done.
Well, it is. Yeah, yes. I guess it is. I guess my problem is that I so often spin without knowing what I'm going to do in terms of plying. It's like I don't know yet whether I'm going to... I could almost ply them together because I think that the bump I had, the two bobbins look very close to one another. So I could do that, but I think I'll probably either spin it with something else, ply it with a commercial yarn probably, or chain ply it, Navajo ply it.
Okay.
But I haven't decided, and I don't want to be forced to decide, so don't make me. I just want them to sit on the bobbin for a while I think.
Yeah. Well, so I don't want to interrupt you. Is that everything on projects? Well, since you were talking about your loop bump, I'll talk about mine, because I started spinning that one. And so I have a bobbin done and started the second bobbin last night. And I've been thinking about it too. I want to try and keep the color order. So either I will Navajo ply it, or I was also thinking of maybe I have so much other fiber, maybe just spinning some other fiber and plying it together. And my colors were like black or charcoal, really dark charcoal gray, kind of, or black, kind of a denim blue, and kind of a bright red were the colors I have. So I don't know. I was trying to think what I would ply it with. I was actually thinking maybe a gray.
That would be pretty.
And I have some commercial. It's Knit Picks. I think it's fingering weight. And what is I can't think what the fiber content is. That doesn't matter. But I was actually thinking maybe I could apply it with that. Or maybe I just spin something. Mm-hmm. I've never thought about actually spinning hand spun with commercial yarn, but there's no reason why you can't do it, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of plying mine with something really thin, like one of my coned silks, or I think I have a coned yarn that it's kind of it's maybe it's rayon, maybe it's silk. I don't know. It's kind of unidentified. It might be acrylic. I don't know. It's a mystery, but it's thin and it's more like a thread.
And I don't have anything like that. So I don't know. So, but anyway, like you, I don't know. I haven't decided. Mm-hmm. I'm still thinking about it. But what I wanted to say about my bump, and I don't know about yours, as I started spinning it, it had all these kind of silvery threads in there. Did yours have that? Okay, so anyway, I went and I looked at the tag, and the tag said it was merino, nylon, and Angelina.
Oh.
So I went, I had to look up Angelina to find out what it is, because I kept thinking, when I first started spinning, I thought, it's just some
stray sparkly.
A little bit of debris in there. There's a little bit of debris in there, and I should start pulling out these little things. And then I realized, no, I think they're supposed to be in there. Mm-hmm. So I actually looked up Angelina, and it is actually like a sparkly fiber. And there's all different kinds of techniques people do where they actually melt it together, fuse it together, and use it for scrapbooking and making fabric out of it. Or you can actually add it to your fiber and spin it. And so that's what she's done.
Oh, okay.
So, Kelly, I'm not a huge fan of sparkly, the sparkly fiber or yarn. We've talked about that.
Right.
This is it'll be interesting to see when I have it all done how much you notice it, because it's very subtle. It's just when I'm spinning it, I come across these random little silvery threads. So it'll be, I'm kind of curious to see when it's done, but I had to look it up. I didn't know it. I had never heard of Angelina.
Okay.
So,
there's a few different there's Angelina, there's Firestar, which I think is a type of nylon, and then there's one called Stellina. I don't know how that, is Angelina a brand name and Stellina is a brand name, and they both are the same thing? I have no idea. Okay. But they all make sparkle in the yarn. I didn't realize that it was used for other things, like fusing it together for scrapbooking, or maybe paper making, or like the
paper.
Book binding. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look just on YouTube, just Google it.
The source of all information.
Right. Yeah, what did we do before YouTube and Google?
Librarians.
Anyway, librarians. Anyway, so cool. So that's all I want to say about the bump. So I'm spinning it, and it was just I learned something new about a new fiber.
Yeah.
Can you technically call it a fiber? I guess.
Yeah.
So. Anyway.
Yeah. It's not a natural fiber, but it's a fiber. Yeah. Mine had only merino. I discovered. I didn't really think about that when I bought it, but the only fiber in it was merino.
Mm-hmm. And it's weird because when I bought if I had noticed the sparkly stuff, I probably would not have bought that one, because I'm not a fan of sparkles in yarn. So that's how subtle it was that I didn't even notice it when I bought it. So anyway, project updates.
Yes.
So I finished, my striped study shawl by Vera Valimaki.
Nice.
I finally finished it and wove in the ends and washed and blocked it. And I actually have it on right now.
So not finished except...
Yes, I can actually say it's finished. Well, it's finished except I've not taken a picture of it and updated my project page. So.
Oh, well, but you're wearing it, so it must be finished.
Yeah. So anyway, that's done. And
nice.
And I'm wearing it, and when I was at Stitches, remember I bought the 2 shawl pins, And I bought one that was sort of an olive green on one side and a dark brown on the other side. Kind of, it's made out of a coconut shell. I'm wearing it with that pin, and it's gorgeous. Really nice colors.
All right.
So I'm really happy with that. And then I think I talked about this in the last episode that I did finish my Knockers yarn, the shawl I made, Good Vibes, by Nadia Cretin-Lechen. And it's done, except I said I was going to do this before the next episode. I'm in the process of weaving in the ends, and then I'm going to wash and block it. But I promised myself I'm going to do that tonight.
Yay!
So it's done, except.
Well, and you have quite a few ends on that one, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot because I should have carried the yarn along one side, but I didn't. And yeah, I should have done that.
So and just so people know, you found this trick when I did the Nymphalidea shawl, and it was in somebody's project notes, and I used it, and I've used it a lot since. When I'm using 2 colors, I do the first stitch of every row with both colors. So instead of carrying it along, at first, when I learned how to carry the yarn along, I was like, okay, this works well, but not if you have to carry it for very far. If it's just a couple stitches, this works, but what if it's like 8 stitches? What do you do? And so this one project page that I read was talking about this way of carrying the yarn along, where every time you come to, every time you're on a right side row, you knit the first stitch with both yarns, and then you continue with whatever yarn is supposed to be used. Now it does make that one edge have a tendency to be tighter. You have to be careful about that, just like sort of carrying it along without doing the stitch does. It also makes that one edge look slightly different because you have the first stitch is 2 yarns held together instead of just the one yarn. But it works great. I have used that many times since I learned how to do it. And like for my color affection, I did it. For the Boo Knits New Beginning shawl, I did it. And those color repeats were maybe 15 or 16 or 18 rows. So I didn't have any ends. I didn't have any striping ends to weave in at all. So I thought that was a great tip.
No, that is a really good idea. I'll have to remember.
You have to try it and see if you like the look of it, but it's really nice not to have to weave in all those ends at the end.
Yeah. Well, I've learned my lesson. So anyway.
Well, and it's worth it because that color combination is really nice.
Yeah. So I really and I also like the feel of this shawl too. I have it here. I'm holding it. Because just before we called, I was working on weaving in the ends. So I love the colors. But I've cast on new projects too.
Woohoo! Let's hear.
Woohoo!
Dish.
So I have to tell you, I part of in the back of my mind is I know I'm going down to Knockers in a few weeks, and I've learned my lesson that you need to knit on something that's just stockinette or garter stitch because there's so much conversation and socializing and laughing and a little bit of in drinking.
I think, Marsha,
can't do anything complicated.
I think you should start a Niebling.
Right.
Lace doily.
No lace, nothing that you have to read a chart. Nothing. So anyway, well, and I will talk about this later, but about my trip after Stitches, I went into San Francisco. And in San Francisco, I bought some yarn, and it's called Entropy by Feederbrook Farm. And I thought it was going to be sort of all over multicolored, but it reminds me very much, Kelly, of the Stonehenge Crazy, where the color changes. It's because it's plied together, so no 2 skeins are exactly alike.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, I'm making a shawl. It's called Among the Shadows by Colleen Knesley, and it's basically just bands of stockinette and garter stitch. And then it's finished with a band of 2x2 ribbing.
I'm looking at this right now. Your yarn is beautiful.
And isn't that very different colors than
I was going to say, that is not your normal color scheme, yes.
That is not my normal color scheme, but I think it's really pretty. I think it's going to be really nice, just spring and summer, those colors.
It's sort of like Frozen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I've never seen Frozen, but I'm pretty sure I can identify the color scheme.
But I actually kind of thought, too, that shawl would be really, you know how my Rodeo Drive poncho, how I was, at Stitches, I had that other shawl that I was wearing with it in sort of similar colors. I actually think that those colors will look good even with my poncho, because it has a little bit of that kind of taupe color in there. So anyway, but I really like the feel of the yarn, too. So it's very kind of plump, you know. Anyway.
Nice.
And then I also cast on my second poncho.
Oh.
I'm a poncho convert, and there's no enthusiasm like that of a convert. Anyway. So I cast on another poncho, and I'm doing the Easy Folded Poncho by Church Mouse Yarns and Tees. And I'm using the Elizabeth Lavold silky wool that I got from the... Remember that there's a navy blue that I got at the Goodwill?
That was your original poncho plan.
That was my original poncho plan, but I discovered that with the that cable on the Rodeo Drive, that the silky wool is too silky and drapey, and that cable is not showing up. So anyway, I'm going to say something about the Easy Folded Poncho. I paid $6 for the pattern. And Kelly, it's now I'm not saying anything. This is not to say anything negative about Church Mouse or paying for patterns, because I believe you should pay for. It's nice to use free patterns. People put free patterns up all the time for people to use, and I have no problem with that. And I also think it's fine to pay for patterns too, right? Designers are artists, and we need to pay our artists, right? But I have to laugh, you know, like when I paid for it and download the pattern, and then I'm looking at it, and it's a stockinette rectangle that you fold into a poncho. And the only, thing that you do is you slip the first stitch.
Secret sauce, as people say.
Yeah. And so I don't fault them, but it is kind of funny that you pay $6 for a sweater, that maybe has cables and a lace pattern and charting, and it has multiple sizes. This is one size stockinette rectangle that you sew up, and then if you want, you can add a cowl collar to it. So I'm not complaining. It's just kind of funny that yeah.
Well, and I think the interesting thing too about it is that there's such a wide variety of knitters. That how many patterns did you say have been? I mean, that's a very popular pattern.
I looked it up, and I think it's like 3,000 over 3,000 projects.
So like 3,000 people have bought a pattern so they could knit a rectangle and sew it up into a poncho.
Right.
But then,
and I'm there too. Right. I bought one too. So,
but how many people? But how many people have looked at it in the shop and said, "Oh, okay, this is just a rectangle sewed together," and then gone home and swatched and figured out like what gauge would work for what yarn and what needles they should use and how many stitches they should cast on, and then made that.
Yeah.
And I don't. Yeah. I think if it's so simple, you can look at it and see what there is you need to do. I don't see anything wrong with that either. I mean, I don't think you should like take take your camera and take pictures of every bit of a sweater and then go home and make it from your own knowledge and skill. But if it's all it is, if you can look at it and say, oh, okay, I see how I could do that, and then you can go home and kind of construct it, that's fine too, I think. Yeah. It's interesting, yeah. I mean, there are lots of people who would never dream of figuring it out. They want to know how many do I cast on, and what size needles do I need, and how much yarn should I buy, and here's, I want to follow the instructions. And that there's plenty of times when I've thought to myself, that doesn't look like something I need a pattern for, but I don't want to have to figure it out. I'm willing to pay pay for the fact that someone else figured it out for me.
They figure it out how many stitches to cast on, what the gauge should be, how many yards you need.
And
they've done all the work.
And that's totally. And there are some moments where that's totally worth way more than $6.
It's worth. Anyway,
just tell
I don't know.
Me
It's
what
just
to
kind
do.
of funny. Yeah, so I'm not saying it in a complaining way. It's just kind of funny to me that $6 for a stockinette rectangle.
That's true.
Anyway, but I'm also planning to. I'm thinking about. I'm going to cast on. I think for the. I want another T-shirt for summer, and I was going to do a different pattern, but I really like the EDT that I made last year by Isabel Kramer, and so I actually have the Elizabeth Lavold Hempathy that I used for my other EDT, and I bought it in another colorway. So I think I'm just going to do that. So I'm going to cast that on, and then I'm going to cast on another project. And
let me just stop you for a second. So longtime listeners will know this. Some of the newer people might not know this, but Marsha was at one point a one-project knitter. Maybe two projects. One real project and one pair of socks. Yes,
and that was a push to have me do like a big project like a sweater, and then, oh my God, socks at the same time.
Yes, and
that was
a couple of years ago, we decided that we both needed to cast on like 5 projects, and Marsha has been totally ruined ever since.
Yes, there's no going back. And also, Kelly, too, you remember I never had yarn other than I would like, I want to go make something. And then I would go to the yarn shop and I'd buy the yarn and buy the pattern, and that was it. And then I think what started it was the sock class that I realized I could just buy, 400 yards of sock weight yarn, fingering weight, and that's a pair of socks. So then I started buying yarn.
Yeah.
Oh my God, and it was all in a shoebox.
Yes.
And now
that ship has sailed.
Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, but anyway, yes, so it's funny. So what I'm thinking of also casting on is I'm going to do a cardigan out of Ba Ram Yu. It's an English yarn, and it's a DK called Dovestone. And I was looking at 2 patterns. The first one I was going to do, and I was looking for yarn. I brought a skein of the Dovestone with me to stitches because it was a cardigan that has a contrasting stripe around the neck, and there's some stripes on the sleeve, and I can't remember.
I remember looking at that one. Yeah.
I really like the sweater, but the more I thought about it, it's like it's the type of sweater that it just has one clasp on the bust line. And it's a sweater's designed to be worn with negative ease. And knowing me, I'm not going to like that. I don't really like sweaters with negative ease, especially ones that are going to have a clasp right over the bust line. So I still think it's a beautiful sweater, but I think it's not for me. So I'm looking at now making another one. It's called Cloud Cover by Heidi Kermayer. And it's a sweater that's designed to be worn open. Or it has 3 buttons that you can close it. So, and she says in the description of the pattern that sometimes the sweaters that are designed to be open, you want to close them, but then you end up sort of like crossing them and crossing your arms, to hold it closed kind of. And so I think it's a nice pattern. So I think that's the one I'm going to cast on for. And I think it's also something that would be simple to knit on at Knockers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have so many projects.
It's nice.
I mean, Knockers is going to have to be 3 weeks long for me to make it.
Well, you'll have some choices. If you get bored of stockinette social knitting in one project, you can switch to stockinette social knitting in another project.
Yeah, just stockinette. That's what I'm going to do.
That's your project.
So anyway, that's it for projects for me.
Okay. So Marsha, you mentioned about some yarn you bought while you were in San Francisco, but you need to tell us more about your little adventure that you had after stitches.
Yes. So I think we mentioned this in the last episode that Sunday, after stitches, Kelly just took me to the BART station, and I took the train into San Francisco. And I went to 2 shops. Well, let me first say about San Francisco. At the hotel, I picked up one of those tourist maps to figure out, where I was. And you look at the map, and all the streets are just straight. So you think, oh, it's just 3 blocks over to something. What you don't realize is it's 3 blocks up a huge giant hill and then down a huge giant hill. I mean, if that in Seattle, we have hills, but so many of the streets kind of go around the hill or curve up and down the hill. So we don't have a lot of really, really straight streets. So it was so surprising to me that. I mean, I knew San Francisco was hilly because I've been there before, but it's just funny when you don't have a car and you're walking. Mm-hmm. It doesn't look like it's that far away until they're huffing and puffing up this hill, Anyway, that was funny. Anyway, but I went to 2 shops. I went to Imagine Knits, and that's where I bought the Entropy by Federbrook yarns that I'm making the shawl out of. And the color's called Absolute Zero. And as you can see, we talked about this already. It's kind of like grays, creams, and light blues and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then there's another shop I went to called, and I never know how to pronounce this, Atelier Yarns. Atelier, Atelier. Okay. It's like it means it's French for like a workroom.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I bought 2 yarns there. I bought a skein of something called Satchel. It's a fingering weight yarn by a company called Mrs. Crosby. And I bought a colorway called Bahama Wood Star. And Kelly, I was laughing because you remember we were in the last episode, we were talking about the yarn, the lost yarn that I was searching for that was in green and cream and kind of a cranberry.
Right, the one you lost, right? The one you lost at Stitches.
Yes, that I could never find again. I think I was obsessed with that because this is a skein that's cream, green, and cranberry.
Well, you didn't find the yarn, but you found
I did not find the yarn because, honestly, I don't even know what the yarn was. I didn't even know what brand it was or anything. But
so if you were a vendor at Stitches and you had a yarn that was cream and green and cranberry...
Call me.
Marsha is better in motion on Ravelry.
Right. Anyway, no, it's so funny.
Or if you bought yarn at Stitches that was green and cream and cranberry.
Yes, because we laughed about this. We went up and down every aisle
on Sunday.
Twice
on Sunday. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which also reminds me, too, remember we said in the last episode, we recorded on Sunday morning before we were going out looking for that lost yarn and looking for the yarn that the proceeds went to Planned Parenthood. Mm-hmm. And we never found that either.
No, but you know what? Maybe it was Knitty Barb.
Okay.
And on the 2 Knitlit Chicks podcast mentioned it. And when she mentioned it, and she mentioned the company, and now I can't remember what it was, I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't even know they were at Stitches. How in the world do you go up and down every aisle? And honest to God, on Sunday, Marsha and I, we started going up and down every aisle, and then we said to each other, okay, wait, we need to be even more methodical than we were just being. So let's start again, and let's go up and down every aisle, making sure we go through every aisle. So we did it twice on Sunday after we recorded. I did not see the Planned Parenthood proceeds yarn. Right, so I didn't see that yarn. But not only did I not see that yarn, I didn't even see that booth. When she said the name of the booth, I was like, seriously? They were at Stitches? I never even saw that booth. How does that happen?
Well, and I thought they must not have done a very good job of sort of promoting this because the information booth didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And the woman said, well, I wish I had known because I would have been telling everybody. And we kind of asked other booths, too, and they're like, no, but if you find out, let us know because we want to go buy some.
So they could have sold probably 3 times as much of that yarn as they did. But anyway, yes.
The mystery booth.
Stitches is so huge that it really is difficult to see everything, even if you purposely walk through making sure you look at everything. Yeah. Maybe it's not possible.
Yeah.
Oh,
anyway.
Dear. So back to San Francisco.
San Francisco. And then also at this yarn shop, I bought a skein of locally dyed yarn. It's called Michael's CWD, and I do not know what CWD stands for. I can't find even his website or anything. I can't find anything, but I bought it because it's a fingering weight yarn. Pretty good. I mean, it has quite a bit of yards in it. Now I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's well over 400 yards. But it's kind of blue, gray, and brown, and it's called San Francisco Fog.
Oh, nice.
So I had to buy it just because it was of that name. And locally, I mean, I really like to buy anything that's locally dyed. I really search for that. So that was fun.
Nice.
And I had a great time in San Francisco just walking around. It was just really nice. And then I flew home Tuesday night, I think, Tuesday evening. So it was fun. But then I had another little adventure. So I got home from Stitches and my trip to San Francisco, and I had been invited by one of our listeners that I've talked about, and she's a neighbor of mine, and our kids went to the same school. Her name is Colleen, and she owns a house over east of the Cascade Mountains in a town called Cle Elum. There's a housing development there called Suncadia. And so she invited me and some of her friends. That she's in a knitting group, and so she invited her friends. And there was Sally, Gwen, and Martha were there. And we all went over to her house, and she has this big, beautiful house. I think it sleeps over 20 people. It's pretty amazing.
Holy
house
cow.
I know. And it has, I don't know how many bathrooms. And they use it for themselves, but they also rent it out. Mm-hmm. And it's right on the golf course, which you couldn't see because there was a ton of snow. And in fact, I went over Friday, and Saturday night, I think it started snowing. Around dinner time, it started snowing, and it snowed all night. So Sunday morning, we got up, and there was probably 10 inches of snow, maybe even 12 inches of snow on top of my car. I mean, there was a ton of snow. And I was sort of thinking, I wonder if I'm going to... But, my car is all-wheel drive, and so I wasn't super concerned about it, but I was kind of like, I wonder what it's going to be like. And ironically, when I got to the pass, I think I left at noon on Sunday, and I got to the pass, and it was completely bare and dry.
Wow.
So it's a sort of, I guess they had plowed it or something, I don't know, but it was fine. So anyway, but we had a really nice time. They had brought food, made dinner. The house is fabulous. I'm completely jealous of the kitchen. It's huge. There's so much counter space. I can't believe how much counter. In fact, because it sleeps so many people, to wash dishes for that many people, if you have to say, they have 2 dishwashers.
Wow.
And 2 sinks, because it makes sense.
Right.
If you have over 20 people or even 15 people staying there, it'd be difficult to wash all those dishes in one load.
Or cook for everybody.
Yeah.
If you didn't have a nice kitchen.
Yeah, so anyway, but they do rent it out. So anyway, it was really nice. But anyway, we did go Saturday into Ellensburg, which is about just, maybe 20, maybe 30 miles away. And there's a nice yarn shop there called Yarn Folk. Nice selection of yarns. I had no reason to buy this at all because I do not need it at all. But I just love the colors. Anyway, the yarn is called Macintosh by Apple Fiber Studios. And the colorway is called Moss on Rocks. And it's sort of citron, green, cream, black, and gray fingering weight yarn.
That sounds pretty.
So, yeah. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but that doesn't even matter, right?
Right. That's not the point.
That's not the point. But then what I was really kind of excited about is I found there's a yarn company called Mountain Meadow Wool Company. It's a mill in Montana. And did I say Montana?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Wyoming.
Okay.
I'm sorry. They produce yarn just from all of the ranches in Wyoming, and beautiful yarn. I mean, and it's the kind of yarn that we like, Kelly. That woolly stuff. It's dense. I'm holding it in my hand now as I'm talking, and it's a beautiful teal green. I would suggest people go look at their website. It's very interesting because they're talking about sustainability, all the things we've been talking about, and the things that we get excited about, and all of our discussion about your the time that you went to Fiber Shed and all of those discussions, a lot of sustainability.
So this is Mountain
Meadow Wool Company.
Mountain Meadow Wool Company.
Yeah, no S on. It's not Meadows plural.
Mountain Meadow Wool Company. Okay.
Yeah, and we can put a link in the show
notes. We will.
Yeah. And it's fun to look at their website because they have quite a discussion about their practices. They have videos about the process of making the yarn, and then they have videos about the different ranches that the yarn comes from. And so, they're not taking all the yarn, just throwing it into one big bin. They are separating it out. So like the yarn that I got is from a ranch called Camino. And so there's a video about the Camino Ranch.
Nice.
So it's just it's just kind of fun. I love that kind of stuff. That you get, you can actually go, you can see a video of the ranch, and very cool. So we'll put that link in the show notes because I think it's kind of fun.
All right.
And she was also in the video. They talk about how they pay the ranchers. They get a proceeds of. They don't buy the yarn. What am I trying to say? They don't buy the fiber from them outright. What they're doing is that they're giving them a part of the money that they're getting for the yarn, which they actually make more money. The rancher makes more money if they get a cut of the final sales of the yarn than if they bought the yarn in bulk from them. If that makes sense. Okay. So they're doing it to help. They're doing it to help the ranchers out too.
Oh, that's an interesting model. Cool.
So I would. So I bought one skein. It's DK weight, and it's, as I say, it's kind of a teal color. It's called Jackson, and.
So you should make yourself a hat.
Well, it is. It's 230 yards, and you know how when you go on Ravelry and you can look at a yarn and then look at what the projects are, and you can say, I've been looking at hat projects, so I think I'm going to make a hat out of it.
Well, and especially because it's Wyoming. Because I just think of like Wyoming as a place where it's cold and there's snow, and you would need a hat.
Need a hat, yeah.
Maybe not in the summer, but in the winter you definitely need a hat.
So that's what I've been thinking as a hat. So great minds think alike, Kelly, because that's exactly what I was thinking.
Cool.
So that's it for my adventures. It was fun.
Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed that, and you have another adventure coming up really soon.
I know, because I was just down there, and now I'm coming back down for the Knockers retreat.
Yes.
And I was planning on driving because I drove last year, but the reason, but then I remember I called you and I said, I just remembered, like, the reason I drove last year is that Enzo was a puppy. He was only 4 months old and couldn't be left alone. And the class that Ben was in was 6 hours a day. Mm-hmm. But then all of a sudden one day I thought, or just a couple of days ago, I thought, I mean, he's over a year now, and Ben doesn't have that same class. He's just, an hour.
Yeah.
He only has one class a day, so he can be.
His schedule is
much easier. The schedule's much better. So I'm flying. That's a long story to tell you that I'm just flying, and it's a lot easier because otherwise that's a total of 4 days of driving, 2 down and 2 back.
Right. That will interfere with our recording schedule.
Yeah.
So our normal recording day would be 2 weeks from now, which is right before Marsha arrives here, and then publishing that weekend that Knockers is happening. So that won't, I can tell you, I will not be editing a podcast while I'm at Knockers. But we will record that week while Marsha's here. But that episode will be a little bit late.
I'm staying after Knockers for, 5 days? I think
something like that, yeah. My spring break,
so.
So yes. So anyway, our next episode will, like this episode, be a little bit late due to events. Mm-hmm. Not events beyond our control, but events entirely in our control that we chose to do that are fun. Mm-hmm. So we can't wait. I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm ready for. Yeah. Well, I'm ready for spring break. I have to say, the teacher's life, seriously. This year is one of the first years that I have a day off, I think, every single month of spring semester. So We started in mid-January, so of course that, I had many days off in January. And then in February, we had the 2 presidents' holidays. In March, we get Cesar Chavez Day is the 31st of March. That's a Friday this year. So I have a Friday holiday at the end of March. Normally, October and March are the longest months because there are no days like that. But this year, I get a day in March, and then almost immediately after, I have spring break. So, and then that's April, and then May, our semester ends in May, and of course we have Memorial Day. This year is flying.
Yay. Won't be long before it's summer break.
Yes. And then one of the things I have to start doing is planning the trip Robert and I are going to take to Arkansas to see his ancestors.
Dead relatives.
See his dead relatives. Hopefully we'll be able to see some live relatives. But we're going to be going to Locksburg, which was founded by a third great uncle or something like that. He's a direct descendant of one of the 3 brothers who founded Locksburg. So that's going to be part of our trip. So we have to plan that trip, which will be fun. And there's lots of stuff happening in summer. Black Sheep Gathering and...
Oh, we're going to have to talk about that. Are we doing that again?
I would love to. I'm excited to do that again. We haven't really talked about it, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I would do it again too. So, okay. Well, so can I just ask for a bee update?
Oh, sure. So I did do an inspection on the hive. This is the hive that it's technically called a cutout, although I really didn't. When I think of a cutout, I think of like you have to open up a wall or something and take the beehive out. But this was in a pipe, so I did have to cut the hive off the top of the pipe and install it into my frames. So that hive, when I first brought it home, it was pretty small. It was maybe 4 to 5 pieces of wax that weren't as big as a beehive box. They weren't as long as a beehive box. And so I went in and I did an inspection. It was probably 2 weeks ago. And they hadn't really increased in size so much. I always overestimate how much of an increase they're going to have. And I think it's because it's sort of exponential growth, to be sort of math teacher-y about it. It's slow growth at first, right? Because they can only reproduce. So the queen can lay lots of eggs, like 1,000 eggs a day. The queen can lay. But she's limited in how much she can lay early in the season because you have to have enough bees to take care of all those eggs and larvae.
Right.
And enough bees to cover them to keep them warm at night when it's cold. So she doesn't just lay willy-nilly everywhere she can. She's cognizant of the limitations. So the hive will grow, but not super fast. But then once it starts to grow, it reaches a point where there are enough bees to forage, enough bees to feed the new larvae, and also bees to build more wax. Because I have foundation, my hive is foundationless, they have to build all their comb. So they need enough bees to do all 3 of those things. And once they reach that point, I have experienced the place where you go in 1 week and it looks one way, and you go in the next week and everything is just like exploded. It's grown so fast. So I'm not quite at that point, that tipping point. They're growing, but they're still growing kind of slowly because of the limitations of how many bees there are, being able to keep the temperature of the hive in the 90s, of the brood in the 90s, being able to feed the brood. Plus there needs to be others that go out and forage. So it had grown a little bit, but it hadn't grown very much. I did add in, when I first brought them home, I used the frames that I had and I rubber banded their comb into my frames. I gave them a couple of empty frames to build on. And I did, when I did the inspection, I dug out some frames that had been built by previous hives that I no longer have. So old comb. And I gave them frames that were full of old comb. So at least once they have enough bees, they have places for the queen to lay. They don't have to spend their energy making wax, making more comb. So I'm hoping, I don't know, it's been rainy off and on this week so far, and I can't remember what I saw for this weekend, but I'm hoping this weekend to go in and be able to look again. And what I'm hoping to see is that the pieces of wax that I put into the frames and rubber banded in, that they've expanded those pieces of wax, that they've put more wax in those frames and like filled them in.
Okay.
And then I'm hoping also that they've kind of moved their brood was really on only probably 2 frames. And I'm hoping that their brood has expanded like width-wise to be more like they have brood in 4 or 5 frames. So they're growing. They're doing a lot of good work. I see a lot of pollen coming in. The pollen they're bringing in right now is California lilac is a big portion of it because that's going crazy now in our area. Sage pollen.
You can tell by the color? Is that how?
Well, I for the California lilac, I know I'm pretty sure I know what color it is because I have quite a few of them in my yard, and I can actually see the bees gathering pollen and see what color the pollen is that's on their legs. So there's a certain color of yellow, a really pale yellow, that is the California lilac. So I know they're gathering that. I know that this is the time of year for sage in our area, so I know they're gathering nectar. I don't know if they gather pollen from sage. I don't remember. I know they're gathering nectar from sage. The poppies are blooming, and that's an orange pollen. And they're bringing that in. I've seen some white pollen, which I think is rosemary. At this time of year would be rosemary. In the fall, white pollen is from ivy, which I hate. But it is a source of, it is a good source for the bees in the fall.
You hate it because of your issues with ivy, or because it's not a native?
I hate it, yes, because it's very invasive. It's non-native, because 2/3 of my yard or more was covered with it when we moved in.
Yeah. Right.
Because of the bins and bins and bins and bins and bins of yard waste ivy I've sent to the yard waste composting. But yeah, it is a good bee. It's good bee food. So I guess I can't. Well, I guess the way I think about it is this: there's no way I can eradicate ivy, and as long as I can't eradicate it, at least it's good bee food. Yeah. So the same thing with oxalis. I hate those. It's Oxalis pescaprae. It's a South African plant. And if we have any South African listeners, I apologize. I'm sure it's beautiful in your country where it's native. It actually is pretty. I have to say it is pretty, but I cannot stand that plant. But the saving grace, I have it all over my yard, and I can't keep up with it. I can't weed it fast enough. The saving grace is my bees are eating from it. Okay. So that's another thing they're bringing in right now. And it's a bright yellow. The pollen that they bring in from it is bright yellow. So it's been kind of fun looking at all the different colors of pollen. When I got my bees the first year, I really didn't know anything about what color pollen was what. And then last year, I had so much of a struggle that they didn't, they brought in some pollen, but they didn't bring in very much. There wasn't a lot to look at. And right now, there's a lot to look at. Almost every bee has just huge saddlebags full of pollen coming into the hive. So, yeah, so that's the bee report.
So interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting, yeah.
And then I'm due to get packages at the end of April. So that'll be a...
Packages of bees?
Of bees. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I've ordered packages from a company up in somewhere near Santa Rosa. And they're treatment-free. They're bees that have not... They come from hives that have not been treated in the past 3 years. So I'm trying that. So I'll have 2 packages from treatment-free hives and then my swarm or cutout, and then I'm hoping to catch a swarm or 2 this spring. So I have to put out my swarm lures. And I should have probably done that last month, but I'll get it done this month.
Okay. All right.
So, it's my bee update.
Well, I'll give an Enzo update.
Okay.
Enzo can no longer be a daddy poodle. He went. I had him neutered. It's now 2 weeks ago, I think. And I was a little anxious about it, I think, given Nash's story. So I was nervous about it. But he was fine. Everything went great. But I picked him up. I brought him in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then they said to pick him up about 3. So I went in to pick him up. And I'm sure this was just feeling the after effects of the anesthetic.
Oh, yeah.
But he came in the house.
They're like stupid.
Well, and he would just stand and stare.
Yes.
And I said, it was like kind of freaking me out after a while because it kind of felt like he was like staring at me, like angry at me for doing what I did to him, you know? He was just like staring, and then we ate dinner and he was just standing there staring at us. Everywhere he went, just stand and stare. So I did take him out for a walk, and a little bit of fresh air sort of seemed to help him a little bit. And then he was fine the next day, totally back to his normal self the next day. So I'm sure it was just the anesthetic.
That anesthesia makes him really just like goofy.
Yeah. But his eyes were... Well, I posted a picture of him on Instagram with his cone on, and then his eyes like saucers just stare. It's very funny to me. But he's had his stitches out and he's fine. So, and then the other news, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, is that Ben. I can't believe I'm about to say that I'm happy he did this, but Ben bought another motorcycle. So this is number 4, I think.
So Ben is working on his motorcycle stash.
Yes. Yes. But they barely fit in the garage anymore. So I have to say, he was riding, his first motorcycle is the one that he was riding to school every day. And it's a 1981 Honda 200. And I think the 200 refers to the size of the engine, but it's only has like 18 horsepower. And so you can't take it on a highway or the freeway. Right. It's not meant. It's like a little step up from a moped kind of. And I thought, I was really anxious about that. But then one day I was following him, and I thought, oh my gosh, that bike looks so small. I mean, it really looks tiny. I thought, I don't even think it's safe. It's so small. And he really couldn't. He could keep up with traffic if it was flat or downhill, but uphill he couldn't keep up with traffic. And then he bought a 400, like an 80s era Honda 400, which is bigger, but it runs, but he's having some problems with it. So he ended up buying a Suzuki 650. It's called a DR 650, and I don't know what the DR stands for, but the point is it's designed to go on the road, but it's also designed to go on dirt roads and backcountry stuff. So it's like an adventure bike is what he calls it. So you can commute on it, but you also can take it back roads for camping and that kind of thing. And when I saw him on it, I thought, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm so glad he got a bigger motorcycle because it's just, he's taller so he can see over the cars, which means he's more visible too.
Right.
And then I said it was now time. I had wanted to buy him for Christmas, but he said no, wanted to hold off until he got a real bike. Now he has a real bike. So I went and I bought him the gear, the pants and the jacket that has all the armor in it and boots, which was expensive, but it has the armor in it that protects your elbows and your knees.
Right.
And So, yeah. So now he's riding. As I say, I cannot. Okay. I hate the motorcycles. I hate that he rides a motorcycle. But if you're going to ride a motorcycle, then get a real motorcycle that's you can keep up with traffic and you're visible and you can be safe.
Right.
And it's not a super fast one. Again, it doesn't have, it's not one of those 1,000cc motorcycles that are supposed to go fast and race. It's not going to go super fast, but he still can go on the highway and be safe. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I can't believe I'm saying that. And just,
oh my gosh.
Oh well.
The life of a mom.
But I have to say, there's a part of me, though, I think it's kind of cool, this idea that you have this motorcycle and you can do this backcountry camping. And for a young man who's going to go off on a little adventure, he's going to go with a friend from school. They're going to do a trip this summer. And I think his spring break is coming up next week. And they're going to go, like, overnight up to one of the islands, up to the San Juan Islands.
Oh,
overnight.
nice.
So, it is kind of cool to have these adventures. So I have to stop being such a nervous Nelly about all of it. And he's a good rider too. He's super safe and he's taken all the courses, and that's what I keep telling myself all the time. Can you hear?
Yes.
I'm trying to talk myself into this. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway.
Oh, good.
No. Anyway. So that's the update from here.
Nice.
Yeah. So.
All right.
Well, the next time we talk, we'll be together.
We will, yes, and we'll be at Knockers.
Yes. Oh, and the last episode we said we were going to put that audio in
Yes.
of the, and we forgot. So we are going to put the audio in of us.
The sauna.
The sauna. Yes.
I was in the sauna day before yesterday, and it was raining outside. In fact, it was pouring for a little while. And the sauna actually leaks right now because it's it's a barrel, and when you get to the end of making the barrel, they have these spacers, and we didn't put enough of the spacers in to make that all the barrel staves really super tight. Mm-hmm. So once the weather dries out, we're going to have to take it apart, take the top part off, and insert a few more of those barrel stave spacers and make it tighter. But anyway, I was sitting inside the sauna, looking out at the yard, and the rain was pouring, and some rain was dripping on the inside of the sauna. But it was so nice. And then when I got out, I sat, because I was so warm from being in the sauna, I just sat in one of the chairs in the rain, in my robe, just sitting there with rain pouring down on me. It was so fun. And I thought, okay, this seriously, this is the life. I have no reason to complain about anything. If I ever complain about anything, just slap me.
Okay. Well, I have to say, when I was down there, I don't think that the hosing off was almost too much, because there's this, I don't know, it was too much. I actually found it was cold enough down there that really just standing out in the night air.
At that time it was,
Yeah, now I don't know what it'll be like on this trip down. So, but my swimsuit will be in the suitcase.
Yay!
So.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it.
Okay, I will see you in a few weeks.
All right, great.
All righty.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Marsha, go ahead. Oh, you're brave. Okay, here you go. Your turn. Oh, my God.
Turn around.
I'm trying to be quiet. All right.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com. We have links for iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, and others.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2 U's
Doing our part for World Fleece.